Arsenal fans, and welcome back to the channel. Today we have a major transfer story to discuss because two names are suddenly being mentioned together in a very interesting Arsenal and Barcelona situation. The first name is Victor Osimhen. The second name is Victor Gyokeres, and the clubs involved are Arsenal and Barcelona. There have been reports suggesting that Arsenal could make a move for Victor Osimhen, while Barcelona are considering a move for Arsenal striker Victor Gyokeres. But before we get excited, there is something extremely important that every Arsenal supporter needs to understand. There is currently no confirmed agreement for Victor Osimhen to join Arsenal. There is also no confirmed agreement for Victor Gykores to leave Arsenal and join Barcelona. These are transfer developments and rumours, not completed deals. So today we are going to separate what is actually being reported from what is simply speculation. Let's begin with Victor Osimhen. Victor Osimhen to Arsenal. Victor Osimhen remains one of the biggest striker names in European football. The Nigerian forward is currently at Galatasaray, and his situation has attracted significant attention as the summer transfer window approaches its final stages. Arsenal have been linked with Osimhen because the club continues to be associated with the search for attacking options. However, the latest reports do not support the idea that Arsenal have already reached an agreement with Galatasaray. In fact, one of the most important updates says that Arsenal are not currently in ongoing negotiations with Galatasaray for Osimhen. That is a very important distinction. There is a huge difference between Arsenal being interested in a player and Arsenal actually negotiating a transfer. A player can be discussed internally, a player can be on a shortlist, a club can explore the conditions of a transfer, but none of that means that a deal is close. And that is exactly why Arsenal supporters should be careful with headlines claiming that Osimhen is already heading to the Emirates. The current situation is much more complicated. Reports have suggested that Osimhen could potentially be offered to Arsenal, including discussions around a possible exchange involving Arsenal players. The Guardian has also reported rumours surrounding a potential exchange involving Gabriel Martinelli and Ethan Nwaneri. But again, this should not be presented as an agreed deal. There is no confirmed agreement that Martinelli or Nwaneri will be part of an Osimhen transfer. That is speculation surrounding the negotiations, and Arsenal have another problem. Galatasaray do not appear to be willing to simply let Osimhen leave without serious consideration. That means that even if Arsenal decide that Osimhen is the striker they want, the financial and sporting conditions still have to be resolved. This is where the story becomes particularly interesting. Why Arsenal would consider Osimhen? From a football perspective, it is easy to understand why Osimhen continues to attract attention. He is a powerful centre-forward who can attack space, compete physically with defenders, and provide a direct threat in the penalty area. Arsenal have spent significant time building a squad capable of competing at the highest level. Adding another elite striker would obviously increase the manager's options, but Arsenal cannot simply buy every player they are linked with. There are financial considerations, there are squad considerations, there are player preferences, and there is also the question of whether the current attacking structure actually requires another major investment. That is why the Osimhen story must be treated carefully. It is a genuine transfer rumour, but it is not a confirmed Arsenal transfer. Now let's talk about Victor Gyokeres. This is where the story becomes even more interesting. Victor Gyokeres is an Arsenal player. He joined Arsenal from Sporting and became one of the club's major attacking signings. Now Barcelona are reportedly considering him. Why? Because Barcelona's striker situation has changed. The Catalan club are looking for attacking options after changes to their squad. And they have also been linked strongly with Julian Alvarez. However, the Alvarez situation has become difficult. That has forced Barcelona to consider alternatives. And one of the names that has appeared is Victor Gyokeres. According to recent reports, Barcelona see Gykores as a possible alternative if they cannot complete their preferred striker target. This is important because it means Barcelona's interest in Gykores does not necessarily mean that the club has already made a formal offer. It means that the Swedish striker is being considered as an option. That distinction matters. Why Barcelona like Gykores? Barcelona have reportedly been interested in Gykores before. His profile is obvious. He is a powerful striker who can operate centrally and attack the penalty area. Barcelona need goals. They also need a striker capable of leading the line. And with their attacking options changing, Gykores could theoretically fit the profile they are looking for. But there is a major obstacle. Arsenal own the player. Barcelona cannot simply decide to sign Gyokeres. They have to convince Arsenal. And that is where the situation becomes difficult. Will Arsenal sell Gykores? This is probably the biggest question of the entire story. There are reports suggesting that Barcelona could make an approach for Gykores. Some reports have even suggested that an approach could come very soon. But there is still no confirmed agreement between Barcelona and Arsenal. There is also no confirmed indication that Arsenal have decided to sell their striker. That is why saying Gyokeres is joining Barcelona would be inaccurate at this moment. The reality is that Barcelona are considering him. That is very different from Arsenal agreeing to sell him. Arsenal invested heavily to bring Gyokeres to North London, so the club would have to decide whether selling him only 1 year after his arrival makes sporting sense. And this is where Victor Osimhen becomes an interesting part of the discussion. Could Osimhen replace Gyokeres? This is the theory that has generated so much attention. Imagine this scenario. Barcelona make a serious approach for Victor Gyokeres. Arsenal listen. At the same time, Arsenal explore the possibility of Victor Osimhen. If Arsenal could sell Gykores for a significant amount and then bring in Osimhen, the club could potentially change the profile of its number 9 without leaving the position empty. But there is one enormous problem. There is currently no confirmed evidence that Arsenal have agreed to sell Gykores in order to sign Osimhen. That is the key point. The two stories are being discussed together because they involve the same position. But that does not mean that Arsenal have already created a swap strategy. At this moment, that remains speculation. The Julian Alvarez connection. There is another player who's extremely important to understanding this situation. Julian Alvarez. Barcelona have reportedly been pursuing Alvarez as a major attacking target, but Atletico Madrid have been unwilling to make the situation easy. As the Alvarez pursuit becomes more difficult, Barcelona have had to consider alternatives. That is where Gyokeres enters the picture. Reports say Barcelona are now looking at the Arsenal striker as another possible solution. So the chain could potentially look like this. Barcelona want Alvarez. Alvarez becomes difficult to sign. Barcelona consider alternatives. Gyokeres becomes one of those alternatives. But none of those steps means that Gyokeres has agreed to join Barcelona. What about Arsenal? For Arsenal, this situation creates a very interesting decision. If Barcelona make a serious offer for Gykores, Arsenal will have to decide whether the money is enough to justify losing a striker they signed only recently. The club would also have to consider whether another striker is available. And that brings us back to Osimhen. If Arsenal genuinely want Osimhen, the club would have to negotiate with Galatasaray. But reports currently suggest that an Osimhen move to Arsenal is far from straightforward. That means Arsenal cannot assume that they can sell Gyokeres today and simply replace him with Osimhen tomorrow. Transfers do not work that easily. Players have to agree, clubs have to agree, fees have to be negotiated, contracts have to be negotiated, medical examinations have to be completed, and registration requirements have to be satisfied. That is why Arsenal supporters should not treat these rumours as a completed chain of transfers. What is actually confirmed? Let's make this very clear. First, Victor Osimhen is being linked with Arsenal. Second, there are reports surrounding Arsenal's interest and possible approaches. But there is no confirmed agreement that Osimhen is joining Arsenal. Third, Barcelona are reportedly considering Victor Gyokeres. Fourth, Gyokeres remains an Arsenal player. Fifth, there is no confirmed agreement between Arsenal and Barcelona for Gyokeres. Sixth, Barcelona's interest is connected to their wider search for a striker and the difficulty surrounding other targets, particularly Julian Alvarez. And seventh, the idea that Arsenal will automatically sell Gyokeres and replace him with Osimhen is currently a theory, not a confirmed transfer plan.